Excellent. Welcome everyone to another talk session here at Cal State Dominguez Hills Esports. Today we have a very special guest. But before I introduce our very special guest, I'd like to give a quick announcement. And that is, first of all, thanking you all for tuning in. And for those that are going to watch this afterwards, we appreciate that and support. We do have other social media outlets that you can follow us or like us or leave comments in. Please do that in support of the program that we're producing. And without any further ado, with great anticipation, we have Bubba Gaeddert here today. And he's going to talk about STEM education and esports. Bubba, welcome to the talk show. And if you don't mind, please introduce yourself and give us a little background of who you are.
Yeah. Thanks, Ruben. Man, I'm a big fan of the show, big fan of what you guys are doing out in Cali and the surrounding areas that you work with, and the other colleges you're helping, the high schools you're working with in esports. So I appreciate you guys, and yeah, I'm happy to be here. I luckily get to run a nonprofit called the Varsity Esports Foundation. We're based out of Kansas City, and it's just really started as out of necessity, where we saw students in suburbs had access to STEM education through esport clubs, and the kids in urban core and rural didn't, because of systemic inequality and funding. And so we said, why don't we give grants? Let's raise some money and give grants. So that's where it all started, kind of the idea about 3 years ago, and we've been having fun ever since.
Gosh, that's amazing. And I definitely want to get into it. Absolutely. What you guys are doing. And first of all, that's exactly, what we are about as well. It is how can we provide more equal opportunity, especially to our inner city kids. And at the same time, in turn, help our educators too start acclimating some of their next STEM moves into incorporating esports. So I just wanted to ask you, this is something that came to mind, and I just thought, gosh, 2020 has been a very funky year for all of us. And given that, just wanted to ask you, what does 2020 say about esports and STEM education?
Well, I think with 2020, we've seen expedited effort
Mm.
and realization that STEM education, through esports or through digital learn or distance learning, I mean,
Mhm.
um, that COVID especially has expedited all of our efforts to, yeah, I think we'll do this in the future. Schools saying, this is something we can do to encourage and help. I mean, STEM's a movement, right? STEM is, I mean, in the 90s and 2000s, when we really got into what STEM is,
Yeah.
it's a movement to help us be more globally effective in the workforce, right?
Right.
And so for our students and our educators are working to help them be more globally effective and be able to get hired because of the focus around technology or engineering or science or math or arts or whatever it may be. Then we're able to put more kids out there. And I think in 2020, like I've said, the distance learning and esports, I mean, there's some resilient opportunities there because of it doesn't have to be something like a traditional activity, like a band where you have to all play together. Even though we've seen Lynn Manuel Miranda on, it's Jimmy Fallon, they're all singing, or what is it on Some Good News with John Krasinski. I'm sure
Yeah.
and even my church, we did that whole thing where like the first, April, we had all of our musicians playing and they had to spend all this time queuing it together. But
Yeah.
you can't do that. We can't like have a competition with football, right?
Right.
Right now, well, for a while, we're noticing that the MLB definitely is having struggles of its own with that. So the resilience in 2020 in STEM and especially esports with what we get to focus on is that it's something that can still be done, and the whole expedited, like everybody's getting into it, and we definitely saw
Mm.
a lot of people. I had a lot of organizations come at me saying, hey, it's really easy to start a tournament, right, with esports. Isn't it really easy? Because my background is painting fields and organizing 5,000 person football tournaments with
Wow.
thousands of people, and like that's way easier, I feel like, now compared to when I've run online tournaments over the past few years. And just managing people is a headache. So
Yeah.
I think that's where we're at right now in 2020. And what does it hold in the future? Maybe this big growth of education and STEM and distance learning and esports will kind of slow down a little bit, and there may be some people come out on top, or it may just be that we're all kind of getting better at it, because it's a lot of the just jump right in stuff that people have been doing since March.
I totally hear you, and especially now, just because of this whole, what to do next. Today we're showing this and airing this the last day of July here, and tomorrow is, well, preparing for school for fall, right? And a lot of educators right now and parents like to, and kids, everybody, are all thinking, what is fall going to look like for us, especially in this digital age? How are we going to essentially obtain more engaging content that right now is currently lacking, quite frankly? And how are we going to even put ourselves into group situations where we can actually work with groups, so that we're not losing essentially that aspect of connectivity that we actually, not just because we call it synchronous, but even in that space of, hey, I'm actually doing something that I'm playing an integral part because I feel the purpose of this role. Um, what innovation, what kind of idea, what kind of tool, what is it, right? What kind of pedagogy is going to take place in all of this? And I think that's where a lot of people, their cogwheels, their minds are all spinning right now. What does this look like? And some of it is, we don't have a plan, or some of it is, let's just embrace what we come at first and then just take it one step at a time. And again, it's apparent to me, just from what I'm hearing and seeing and just being close, putting my ear to the ground and hearing what educators are saying. It's like, hey, we may need to embrace this now, and look into this discovery exploration space, and actually see how we can activate this a lot sooner than later. But yeah, I hear you. I totally hear you. And even with that notion too, what you mentioned earlier, yeah, even coaches. I think about our coaches as well. Those who are, currently running and managing football teams, their fields are empty, right? Basketball courts are empty, and it's not to say that, we're hopeful that we're going to come back to, you know, pre-COVID days. And essentially, we just have to start thinking, okay, how can we activate other aspects to keep essentially some of the core values that esports can present and offer, especially in traditional sports. And so, yeah, so this is very interesting times that we live in, and at the same time, it's kind of nudging all of us to enter the digital space, because we're here, 20 years into the millennium. So it's up now. Oh.
Even over the last year, even broadcasters on ESPN, ABC, whatever, have stopped laughing as much when it comes to talking about esports. I mean, I know there's a thing on Joe Rogan today or whatever that came out about video games and addiction, but he's right. His points are very right. And he even has his own addiction problem. So that's stuff that we focus on, the foundation with addiction and digital citizenship and diversity, inclusion, suicide prevention. We want to make sure we're helping with the industry and the ecosystem to make sure that we're proactive in all of it. And I don't really need to sit and create stuff, because we've seen so many organizations out there like your own helping with education and certifications and other things, and being on these live podcasts talking with people who are experts. Like, there's people are doing stuff all across the ecosystem. The issue we have in esports is segmentation, where you may be doing it in California, but somebody can do the same thing in Florida, but we just don't know about it yet because we're not talking enough, because maybe we're driving passion, we're being proactive. But it's better than being reactive down the road when we have to like, oh man, all of our kids have really bad carpal tunnel, or
Right.
all this stuff. Like, man, we could have given them better exercise techniques. Well, there are groups out there doing it. We just got to engage with them and get it more vocal and out there, rather than the stigmas of stay in the basement and drink your soda and eat chips. And it's people are hearing it, but people maybe whatever the term is, they're hearing it, they're just not listening yet.
Mm, yeah.
But at least there's some literacy around esports and gaming breaking through that ice. So we'll see.
Yeah, no, I completely hear you, and I'm listening too. So,
Thanks.
yeah.
Did you hear that, honey? Somebody? No, just kidding. They're out of town.
Somebody's listening to you. Oh man,
it would be the other way around. I would be. Oh yeah, I hear you.
Yes.
Oh, the trash.
Exactly.
Anyways.
Exactly. No. But honestly, what's amazing to me is it sort of segues, what parents and educators are thinking about esports and STEM, right? Especially if they have the stigmatism, or they have a bit of a drawback, how does this work? So Bubba, if you don't mind, I mean, how was it that STEM was included in esports? Who saw that? What was the potential? Just elaborate a little bit more, if you don't mind.
Sure. Well, there is now I think the fifth. There is actually the fifth. We were number 2. The fifth esports organization to be STEM accredited happened this week, and it's Danny Martin down in Texas with Geekleets. So I connected them with Andrew Raup at STEM.org, and he went through a whole STEM accreditation process like we did back in January. And I say that for history's sake because there's 5 right before Danny last month. The I think it was National Junior College Athletic Association Esports became the 4th, and then Generation Esports, which is the parent company of High School Esports League, they were the first in 2018 with the STEM accreditation. We started ours in January, then Generation Esports this last spring. Awesome. And so I say accreditation, but like I said, it's a movement. I mean, you can get. We went through this process, because it provides some validity to the ecosystem and to the industry by having STEM accreditation. I mean, any organization or product or a curriculum that's out there that's helping STEM doesn't really need that seal of approval, because organizations are doing it all over. It's definitely beneficial for us because we want to. Luckily, as a nonprofit, I get to get into a lot of organizations and go through a lot of doors and have a lot of great conversations, because I'm not trying to sell anything. I'm just trying to help.
Right.
And when you have that seal of approval from STEM.org, it helps me say, look, we are focused on this movement because we want to help your kids. So when I look back on really where esports started with STEM, I look at the High School Esports League. They're partners of ours. And we, when they started that 2018, they partnered with, I think you've talked to the curriculum creators that we partner with now as well, Dr. Christy Custer and Mike Russell out of Wichita, Kansas.
Yes.
They created the Gaming Concepts curriculum, which is the world's only comprehensive free textbook that's STEM accredited about esports. It's for high school students.
Wonderful. Yep.
148 pages. And the fun thing about it is it's not a curriculum you have to pay for. It's can be used in any school as an elective, or you can take units out of it and use it. And that was those 2 organizations. I mean, those, I guess, Christy and Mike are an organization, but those creators, HSCL and Mike and Christy, who created these things. Like HSCL started 8 years ago with high school esports. And when I met with them 3 years ago, just vetting them and seeing what their values were and everything they did really aligned with what we wanted to do. And meeting Mike and Christy and seeing what they're doing. I mean, their curriculum's been downloaded over like 100,000 times in 40 different countries, and people are using it all over. And so when I look at STEM education, I look at their table of contents and I see things like how to build a computer, how to build a router, but I also see shoutcasting education, and you can pull that out and use in your communication class if you wanted. and food pyramid stuff and wrist exercises. That's important stuff.
Yeah.
And it helps you. It's really just a guide to help you, because you can use that curriculum however you want. So in STEM wise, it's there, and it's fun to be able to talk about that and have them literally 2 hours away from me in Kansas City to go and just hang out and go there, go talk about whatever, because I mean, she's like an award-winning curriculum creator and like nationally renowned, and all this stuff around why STEM is important in education and why esports matters is because the inclusion, because the belonging, and because you're meeting kids where they are. And everybody tends to say the chocolate over the broccoli, but there might be a better way to really look at this. I haven't really figured it out yet, and maybe it'll happen right now. There's a better term than chocolate over the. I can't come up with anything cooler. Yeah, like I want to be so. But I mean, that's the idea that's why robotics started working 10 years ago, because it was, oh cool, I can play with robots. But man, what are you learning? First Robotics is a great organization that helps you do so much around coding. And now you have these kids in the same kind of opportunity who don't want to throw a football, don't want to play an instrument. They're engaging in high school, middle school, and even in college, and they're learning about game design, like through your programs. They're learning about game design and coding and how they can take this in the real world. And that's much more effective than just being alone and playing video games. And maybe you do want to do something in gaming, but you don't know where to go. So having a high school teacher or a college professor saying, hey, come into our club and be a part of this, things change for you automatically. And it can be any group that helps, but you see the definite benefit with coding and gaming and STEM and esports.
Thank you, Bubba, for sharing that, because it's so true. Just to piggyback on that, I do see, like, hey, the kids or the students, they're learning through play. And sometimes, the beauty is that they're learning and they don't even know that they're learning. And it just works out so seamlessly. And that an educator, for them to see that and not necessarily have that feeling of resistance, as opposed to what they get maybe on other subject matters, but incorporating some of that play, then all of a sudden you're going through this experience with them. And that's probably the best joy, and why anybody becomes a teacher, is to see kids flourish and rise above the standard. So no, that's excellent. That's excellent. And if I may just ask, how does, and I think you just touched on it, but this was a question that was shared with me earlier. How does esports enhance STEM education? So what we see now in STEM, let's say, esports, how does integrating esports just enhance that overall experience?
Yeah, well, I threw up some stats in the chat for your viewers. We know that with, and I say, when I go back to, it could be any activity that helps students. I mean, we've seen with Mike and Christie's curriculum and HSCL's clubs that you've seen an increase in GPA of 1.7 and attendance of 10%. We have this data that's really great. But I mean, if we know 97% of kids play video games, and we also know that when we survey them, 82% of those kids who join esport clubs say they've never been a part of any other activities. You're meeting a lot of kids where they are, right? However, if there's another activity out there, like a robotics or something that engages every other kid, then it's going to have the same effect. So esports just happens to be the golden ticket for some reason. And I think the numbers prove as to why that is. Not every kid may want to do a robotics. Not every kid wants to be in drama or be whatever, any other extracurricular activities. But I think the video game industry over the past 60 years has really given opportunity. I mean, we look at video game culture in arcades when we were kids. I mean, plumping quarters in to what it is now. I mean, Nintendo brought us home. But it had an adverse effect too, right? It kept us home. So the ability that parents are seeing that they can have their kids engage at school and activity rather than just being stuck on a game all night, and using it as most of us do as parents, sometimes use it as a digital babysitter. I mean, we do. I'm guilty of it. I'm a little more prude because my kids have like leap pads. My wife and
Yes.
I, they're my oldest is 11. He turns
Okay.
11 this next month,
Nice.
and
Nice.
then a 9 and a 5-year-old. But we're definitely like, your kids aren't on iPads and your kids aren't playing Fortnite. Like, no, not yet, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's almost it's almost like I'm not meeting the mold of the digital babysitter here in the suburbs of Kansas City.
Right. Right.
But anyways, back to what I was saying, the idea where parents can then engage with their kids and maybe even participate with them because
Right.
of gaming, and because of, I mean, our generation, our kids
Yeah.
could play Mario with us because we want to show them old school before Fortnite, right? And they're playing it,
Yeah.
and we're engaging with them. Their kids are eating dinner with their families. They are doing their homework because they want to then go compete with their high school esports league clubs
Right.
and be able to have good grades so they can stay on the team and compete, just like you and I did when we were playing sports.
Yeah.
We want
Nice.
to have good grades.
Yeah.
So that why that works is because then you get the kids in the club that aren't even the gamers.
Mm.
They love games, but they're not the competitors. They are the audio video people or the IT people, just
Mm.
like you have, I'm sure, with your program, like
Yep.
Yusuf here, athlete, as well as IT and audio video.
Yeah.
Like you have, I know Connor is our director of esports here. He's a head esports coach at Ottawa University
Mm. Mhm.
in Kansas, and he was telling me all about the different people he actually recruits, and he actually recruits people that aren't competitors. I didn't think you could do that because when I worked in athletics in college,
Right.
I was hired into the marketing department to be the announcer and the color commentator and go on the field and do stuff on the mic, but I was in the marketing department. I wasn't recruited by the football team to be a player or a part of the team, and neither was the physical therapist. That was a whole different department. But
Wow.
what I'm noticing, and maybe this is true or not true, and maybe this is something he's doing that no one else is doing. I have no idea. He's got a lot of great ideas.
Sure.
Is he's recruited a guy to be the dedicated person for audio video, and they're on scholarship with him, which
Wow.
is like, I didn't know you could even do
Yeah.
that. So he definitely need to have a conversation with Coach Alney. He's
Yeah.
doing some amazing stuff, and but I think to go back to all that, the STEM part of it is there's more. They're out of 10 people in the club, 6 of them are competing. 2 of them are doing audio video. Another one's doing IT. Another one's doing shoutcasting. Whatever it is,
Mhm.
they all love it,
Mm.
but they all have that career, those different career options. When you look at what NASIF has with the different opportunities
Right.
for career opportunities
Mhm.
in esports, I mean, you take esports out and you put NBA, looks super similar, doesn't it? Right? It's just that there may be a little more technical stuff, right?
Right. Right. No, 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 that's awesome. I mean, gosh, what I heard even as you were sharing is immediately inclusivity, right? The ability that esports brings that to the table, and you don't have to be a gamer to be part of an esports club or to
Mm-hmm.
learn more through an enrichment course. And that was really cool to hear that. I mean, it sounds like when you say you're in a team,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if you're playing, let's say, an Overwatch game title, right? It's not necessarily those that are in front of a computer playing a
Yeah.
role in this team. You're actually bigger. There's a bigger team. It's almost like a unit, a squad of people that make
Mm-hmm.
esports what it is. And the fact that there's recruiters that are looking for positions like that. I mean, that's really neat to hear that because they are showing career technical skills
Mm-hmm.
at its highest capacity and form because it's producing something of entertainment and showing the competition side of things that gives us that production.
And Ruben, it's so
Yeah,
much easier. I
yeah,
mean,
that's so
I can
true.
I can sit here and we can run our own TV show.
We can,
I mean, I've been streaming for over 2 years on Twitch,
yeah.
and I'm doing it by myself because I'm a nerd, but I'm when I go to my mom's house this next weekend, she's a graphic designer like I am, and
Yeah,
I'm like, I've been streaming graphic design for the past 2 years, but I like, Mom, I want you to do this, and
that's so
she
cool.
knows how. She knows, we're all, like I said, we're all nerds in my family, but
Love it.
um setting up a camera over her light table and her doing calligraphy or doing caricature art,
Yeah.
she can run her own TV show, and for in all honestly, she can flip a switch and I can run it through Stream Elements right here in Kansas
Yeah.
City while she's in Oklahoma, because because I want to help her first
Right.
until she
Right.
gets the
Right.
hang of
Right.
it. But she's 70. I mean, isn't that
Oh
like
my
I'm like,
gosh.
this is pretty cool. I can get my mom engaged in this, and she's been teaching. I mean, I teach at university level here in Kansas City for about 8 years.
Oh,
She's
wow.
been teaching, I don't know, how old am I? 38. So she's teaching like 45, 60, 50 years, whatever,
Amazing.
in the college and technical world with, she's like one of 3 Adobe ACE certified instructors in the country. So it's fun. She knows what she's doing, but I need to give her that little boost to run her own TV show.
Yeah.
And I think if somebody at 70, listen, chat, if you're somebody at 70
Just
to do
gonna.
this, and there's kids that are 9 that can do this,
Oh my gosh.
then you can run your own TV show.
You could do
And
it.
that's not, and just it started with podcast. If you
Right.
think about it, in the 90s or whatever, when the internet came around, be able to do podcast, which wasn't even that big there. But Al Gore, thanks Al Gore for
Yeah.
giving us.
Seriously.
That's not the correct history, but it's a fun history.
It is a fun history. Gosh. Man, it's going to encourage more of our viewers to nudge their grandmas to start doing Twitch channels and podcasts and streaming. Hey, I got to tell you, side note,
Mm-hmm.
I've encouraged my own grandma who makes these, I mean, delicious home cooked authentic meals, which I'm missing because of COVID. And I said, Grandma, you're gonna have to forget the writing on paper
Yeah.
and then leaving that. You're gonna have to just record them in some way so that we can watch it and pass it down to our loved ones and our relatives and what have you. So I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
I got a friend, his wife, she's on Twitch. Her name is Lady Subs. She cooks just about every other day. She's Vietnamese, maybe. I could be totally wrong there. But her dishes are really cool. And she puts her recipes. People are doing that,
That's
but it's
super
fun
cool.
to watch her, because her husband sets up the whole camera and everything, and she gets it going. But yeah, you're right. I wish I could have done something cool with my grandpa, because he was in the it was in the 20s. He was with like the civil servant kind of. It wasn't the military, but it was something. I always wanted to like grab all this information before him or my grandma passed away, to like write about what they did. And you're right. If you've got to collect it, you got to collect that data, especially recipes that get handed down over generations.
Right. Oh yeah, absolutely. My gosh, that's the power of this digital age. I got to tell you, super cool. And the fact that you said it's user friendly. Anyone, as long as you're willing to learn, guess what? People out there, the communities out there to help you, support you through how-tos, right? To making them more engaging, more interactive. So anyone can do it. Excellent. If I may ask just another question, at this moment, what are some of the ways that an educator can introduce and diversify esports into STEM now?
I'd say specifically to esports is you need to engage and survey your kids and see what they like.
Mm.
I say a lot of issues happen where, I'm going to learn about esports as I'm an educator and my kids are asking for it. And I'm going to go out and buy 10 PCs and we're all going to play. Okay, guys, we got an esports club. Who's coming? Hey, we all like Madden. Oh, I bought all these PCs. So you gotta take the right steps, and this is a lot of the groups, HSCL and NASIF and other ones will talk you through that process. I think when it comes to educators, whether they be middle school, high school, or college, that as you've probably alluded to in a lot of your trainings and education and podcast, in the college sense of how you started your program. It was engaging the students. Even the university I teach at, I'm the club sponsor, but I don't do anything with it because now another teacher is really engaged with it, because I don't have the bandwidth at the moment. But technically, the wildness of that is esports in the scholastic space is that's considered a varsity program because the staff person's involved. But is it really compared to athletics department actually housing it? And I'll say why. Another reason you probably need Connor on the show is because he's got this mentality that like esports needs to be its own division within colleges. It needs to be its own department, I should say.
Yeah.
Maybe down the road, 5, 10 years, who knows? And
Yeah.
I don't know if that's something probably to explore and discuss, and maybe that's not the right path for everybody. But
Yeah.
it's the same thing in high school. It's a letter varsity club or sport, or it's a bunch of people getting together in the library. There's the whole spectrum.
Right.
So I'd say to any folks really engaged with their schools, whether they be a kid, a student, a parent, a teacher, administrator,
Mm-hmm.
um, first is to see what they're interested in,
Mm.
and particularly what game. And maybe they're interested in robotics. You don't know it, and so first robotics, call them right now. That's a heavily impactful STEM program, or groups like Code Ninjas out there that are
Mm.
all over the country. Like they have programs where they'll come into schools, or you can do. They have online learning right now as well, and there's a lot of that. And I think for the past 20 years, a lot of parents have pushed. My
Mm-hmm.
kid needs to be a coder because it's a $90,000 a year plus psych salary,
Right. Right.
and my kid loves it. But I've realized there are some really good jobs out there, but should I be forcing him? Or there's a whole parenting conversation I need to have. I mean, I keep having with myself and my wife about maybe he likes dancing. He likes dancing,
Right.
like singing, like what. And my middle one likes sports. But to digress, I'd say educators in STEM and esports, you, there's too much information out there for you just to sit and wait for it to come to your doorstep, because a lot of these groups aren't actively pushing it. I mean, this is the most I push stuff is I get on podcasts and I talk about it.
Right.
And I as many Title I schools I want to work with, I don't have a big list of Title I schools. I have to go state by state. But
Mm.
I have a lot of schools come to us like, hey, we're Title I. We want to have some opportunities for our students, for our disenfranchised students. We're in a
Right.
low income area. Great. Here's a grant. Let me help. Let me get you started.
Right.
But
Right.
it's only because of connections, and you have to go out and search for it, because right now we're such a segmented industry
Yeah.
that you can watch this stream, or you can watch a YouTube video, or you can read a big long proposal or something on researchgate.com and learn
Mm-hmm.
about esports, but it's 7 different opinions. So
Mm.
there's a lot of we're trying our best to kind of consolidate and bring people in and be the connective tissue for that, where people can gather more information
Mm-hmm.
from us. But it's a long road because there's so many organizations out there that have the same model but saying in a different timbre, or different to a different audience or whatever. And it's just about getting the information out, and it's this is the medium right now we have.
Right. No, no, I hear you. And I'm also hearing too that, yeah, at this point, we're in 2020, and yeah, we don't know what fall fully is going to look like. We're taking it day by day, but if not now, then when? That's the
Mm-hmm.
question that I kind of beg.
100%. That
Uh,
100% right now. That's a term to use right now, especially with technology, COVID, systemic racism. I mean,
oh
if not now, then when? And I mean, as much stuff as we've all been engaged in it right now in those kind of those areas, especially with systemic inequality or esports.
yeah.
If you're 100% right, if not now, then when?
Right, right. And the whole, integrating, and I think sometimes, and I can understand this because I try to put myself always in the shoes of the other party, to understand, and even just seeking help me understand it a little bit more. What is the fear? What is the thought? And perhaps there's a little bit of this whole, well, I don't know if I'm fully in control of it, or maybe I have to adopt, like you said, I have to adopt more equipment and just put in a particular game title in place, and then just
Mm-hmm.
rule this as this is now officially esports. Sometimes I think to myself, wait a second, uh, take a look at your school. You have great resources now.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people forget that they have, let's say a TV production, or they
Yep.
have
Yep.
a music room, if you will. That already plays into the fact of, hey, you're just one step closer to
Mm-hmm.
now having a full uh, ecosystem that really showcases what esports can do.
Yeah.
And even for the collegiate space, uh, do we have to quickly adopt a new discipline? Well, it sounds like what we can do is take those baby steps, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look at the disciplines we currently have, let's see how it's informed, so that way the industry can actually feel like, hey, uh, this is industry leading stuff here, that they're incorporating your business component, you're incorporating your psychology component,
Yep.
your communication and arts component. And then as you see those pieces come together, then it pushes out perhaps its own division or
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
its own department, and it starts to sort of take more form and shape. But I just encourage to look at what you currently have, and perhaps that kind of eases the
Mm-hmm.
anxiety or the stress level, if you will, thinking that, well, I've got to run quickly and emulate this space. Well, no,
Mm-hmm.
this is the beauty of schools, is that each school is unique in its own,
Mm-hmm.
and who they serve and the people that they have on staff to serve those two. And they have a great way to make it creative and make a space feel 100% safe. And now, because of this digital space that we're in, you get to change up your space however way you want it. Now you're going beyond walls, and so that's probably what that's what I'm hearing. That's what I probably would also add to, just to encourage those that are entertaining the idea of what that looks like.
You're exactly right, Ruben. I think the metaphor for your listeners,
Mm,
especially for other colleges and high schools,
mm,
the thing that's, even though esports is trying to be its own
mm,
and has the word sport in it, traditional sports is always the great metaphor for what we do.
right.
um but we want it to have its own path. Like we are all nonconformist, right?
Right.
But we're conforming to something, and we're trying to not conform to
Mm,
have our own path. That because traditional sports, I mean, how many of your students get recruited by pros? Probably not a lot of pro recruiters looking at colleges, unfortunately, because that pipeline's not the same. Because
mhm.
I mean, I got a phone with a guy in Canada, his 16-year-old's getting recruited, and that's late.
Right. Right.
They're getting recruited at
You're
13 to
late.
play pro.
Right.
Yeah. Then they're burnout and retired at 20
Yeah.
as the average. It's 18 to
That's right.
24 is when they retire. It's 18 to 24.
Yeah, yeah. No, it's so true. It boggles my mind too when you
Mm-hmm.
say it, because I'm thinking to myself, let's just think back for a minute. We're not even, we're still developing too
Mm-hmm.
as human
Yep.
beings,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
still at that age, we're still growing, and
It's
we're retired and we're burnt out.
well,
Uh,
and pros are picking up people ladder ranking within. Surely, when you recruit, I know when a lot of coaches in college recruit, they're also just as much for a job. Like you look at somebody's Facebook and their social media, that's something. But in the essence of pro recruiting, they're not looking at it just on what they did or didn't say. It's on how they have influence and what their brand is, and
right.
how many followers they have, and what kind of branding they can bring in as a professional. Like, oh, we're bringing in whatever person because they got 1 million followers, because that
Right.
helps the brand. In colleges, you're surely similarly looking at maybe their rankings and how good they are and their clips and other things. But influence is there as well, because that helps the overall brand for the college.
Mhm.
When I look at trying to help maybe the folks in other colleges or high schools understand the traditional sports to sports metaphor, and you really hit it on the nail on the head, with the idea of organization or schools using what they already have in place. You're 100% right on. Have an IT or have a audio video club be a part of the esports club. Yes. Let's look at a school that has football but doesn't have soccer.
Right. Right.
Okay.
Right. Yep.
Like, oh man, I don't know if we can bring soccer. We got a whole build all this stuff. Like, you already got a football field. You can just paint new lines on, right?
That's right. That's
You
right.
already got a press box. You already got an athletic department.
Yep.
All you need to do is get a coach and recruit
That's
and
it.
get some soccer goals, and you share locker room or whatever you need to do depending on the size of the university. But think about it the same way.
Right.
You're exactly right on. We already got an AV club. We already got maybe a communications club that's doing the news report at a desk with a green screen, and
Right.
have them shoutcast,
Yep.
or teach one of the kids in there to use that equipment. You're 100% right on that. Because we think it needs to be this big investment that needs to happen. Small steps are important, because
Right.
you can start by doing the play Smash Brothers in your library
Mm,
and raise money for a local hospital as
right.
as an organized event with 30 kids that then shows the administrators, oh, this isn't as bad as I thought. And maybe we should, even though high schools, colleges, esport clubs are by far the most underfunded thing with the most people in the organization within the clubs.
It's interesting.
Esport clubs in high schools, usually one of the biggest clubs. Colleges, I know, like in my alma mater, Oklahoma State, 500 people on campus or in the gaming club.
Wow.
And they're working diligently to have curriculum and build a esports recreational arena that also serves as competition, and in the student center that everybody should be doing, because colleges know how to make money, and or they know this is why they're all reaching out into esports, because they can turn. Unfortunately, and I told you on the phone a couple weeks ago that a lot of colleges are just slapping an E in front of communications classes and calling it esports, and that's not something in our industry we're happy about, because that's like what's the comparison there would be like, yeah, we're gonna have this whole entire cooking degree, but we're just gonna we're just gonna teach you how to use garbage. I don't even know. I don't even know, like it just seems
right. It feels like a band-aid fix of anything, right?
For
It's
sure.
not really addressing what the students or what the audience is wanting, right? And I completely agree with that. It's just, the whole aspect of what you just said. It's that professional skill that's being taught, but at the same time you can activate it so quickly that it can generate, if you will, even its own funding, so that way it can keep growing as students put in the effort. And sometimes what I've noticed is they're just having, like I said earlier, they're learning, they don't even know it. They're having fun and raising money, they don't even know it. It's like, hey, we just did this because we thought we wanted to get together and we want to have a good time and we wanted to make friends and be able to gain new networks. And well, look at that. We just raised a couple of bucks here, a couple of bucks there to help us get possibly jerseys for our team, or to get new equipment, and perhaps to help save another club. Maybe we're doing this for the benefit of another club, or to get new instruments for the music department. It's
oh yeah,
so many directions, right?
well, Ruben, in the high school, it cost $500 to keep a football player in football.
Right.
It costs like 200 to 250 to have an esports player.
Wow.
So these are the numbers we have found in the average of high schools, and 500 is still pretty low for football.
Right.
But I mean, if you think about the equipment and everything, and the upfront, if you paid for everything, but obviously there's also activity fees where colleges have activity fees. When I was in lab, or I was doing whatever event, just like high school, activity fee. If it's $50 a year, it's $50 a year, and that's part of what you pay for to play on football, because it's maybe going to go to buy you 2 or 3 mouthpieces or something for football, or a mouse in esports.
I was right there with you, Bubba. I had to do booster clubs. I had to sell chocolates. I had to fundraise in any way, shape, or form, and sell all sorts of coupon books.
I will take cookie dough. I will take 2 tubs of cookie dough, please, and call me when I have finished it, because you will know, because the barrel will be empty. Because I didn't cook it, I just spoon ate it.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you. That's definitely my favorite as well. But yeah, I mean, and again, it's another, schools are always going to need some kind of support, some kind of fundraising, just to even utilize esports as a great way to help other groups or associations or clubs or departments. I mean, there's so many opportunities, and you allow the students that safe space, and you welcome them by meeting them in that middle ground and showcase their brilliance. Hey, I had no idea this student can do that. You're uncovering and getting a chance to spend a little bit of time at the same time, their talents, their gifts, and then perhaps from a administrator or teacher perspective, who's seeing the student as a third perspective, saying, hey, you know what? I think you have a gift in shoutcasting. I didn't, and that person could have said, oh, I was just doing this because I enjoy watching my friends.
Yeah.
And it leads to an inspiration, a spark, and a self-esteem growth too, a self-confidence piece that needs to be so heavy with our 21st century learners. And it's such a positive feel at the same time that it can take them into preparing them for the rigors of college, move them into the career pathways, especially when they're in the college space. And I just see such a domino positive effect if we give the students a little bit more agency, if we
I like that.
activate.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
It's that subset of kids who don't think they can fit, and
mm,
um, definitely these type of activities give them that belonging,
oh yeah.
and in team building and critical thinking. That I mean, I know a kid in New Jersey who 2 years ago
Mm,
joined the HSCL league and was super afraid of doing it and didn't know anybody, wanted
mm.
to stay home. By the next year, he was a keynote speaker talking about esports and STEM in schools
How
because it
cool.
gave him all that, like you said, agency.
Wow. Come on, that's so cool. Just to hear that story alone, I know there's plenty kids out there, you know what I mean, that are needing this. I did have, even just from our school, this whole COVID hit us all hard, right, in all directions. And, students said, hey, Ruben, this is the only part of normal I have right now. I need this. And to hear that just resonated with everybody, not just myself, but just
Yeah.
everybody that heard that response and just thought, okay, we're here. You know what I mean? Even though we're not elbows to elbows right now, but we're here in this digital space. We feel connected. We're building relationship through this digital space. I mean, that's what many of our jobs are today.
Yeah.
We're connecting through virtual doors right now. And so for our kids to already get a head start of that, I mean, that future is going to look bright for them if we just foster it and care for it and actually
Mm-hmm.
put that tug of rope down and then start walking towards them. So my gosh,
I
that's so
saw
cool.
something today. I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
all
please.
Zoom meetings should now be like a video game meeting
A
where
video game.
you all are like in group chat playing, I don't know, Uno. I mean, I have no idea.
There you go.
Like
That's right.
just everybody, whatever free game is out there that doesn't take a ton of your brain power,
Right.
but have your Zoom staff meetings where you're actually playing a game
That's
instead,
so cool.
and,
Yeah, I love
all
it.
right, now it's Tom for your update. And oh yeah, red 7. I think everybody should start doing that. Like
I
it's
think
gamification for sure.
that's brilliant. That's brilliant. I love that. We'll have to do some battleship gaming, you and
There we
I.
go.
Oh my gosh, super cool. Well, but you know what? We're coming close to that time.
Mm,
So this has been great. Obviously, definitely want to keep this dialogue going. I really see the work that you're doing through the Varsity Esports Foundation. So important, so well needed. The time is now for schools that are looking to find ways to keep their students, honestly, just morale up at this point and at the same time not feel so tentative, not feel so scared or diffuse any kind of worry that might be lingering.
mm,
Just use what you possibly may have now because you might have what it is that you need to take you that step forward or get you that step closer and get connected with a great organization like yourself. Um, if you don't mind leaving us with just something powerful, words of wisdom, if you will, or something for the good of the group to hear. Um, yeah.
yeah, Ruben, I'm so happy that I got to be here on your stream today. I'll say definitely come check us out at varsitysportsfoundation.org, but I'd rather use this time to pump up your next shows. I love Lindsay Milligore with the Gamer
Oh,
Doc. You are
yes.
going to have a great time learning some stuff from her
Yep.
next Wednesday. That's August 5th right here
Yeah. Yeah. That's
on
great.
the channel. And
Yep.
then next Friday, August 7th, you have Victoria Horsley with
Yep.
UCEA.
Yep.
You have two amazing people on your show next week that you will have a lot of interaction with that are going to be great, and I think your viewers are going to have a lot to learn and a whole nother perspective to learn about. So for my time, I want to pump up your next
You're too
shows
kind. You're too
because
kind.
those are some amazing people.
Oh man, I appreciate that. Yeah, they are. Getting a chance to talk to them individually, I was blown away and inspired and left thinking, gosh, my day just got better. just by talking. I mean, that's how powerful these two individuals are, but and what they do and represent. And same thing with you, Bubba. Honestly, our talk a couple weeks ago, uh, had to lead to a show like this so that we can share with everyone that we are working side by side, and at the same time, we're all for that movement, like you mentioned earlier. This is what it is. We're trying to meet our kids in the middle, and for parents that have that mindset of, hey, I'm not quite sure. Well, I just encourage to talk, start the dialogue, and for the students that are watching, uh, don't shy away. Talk to your parents, talk to your grandparents. You'd be surprised. They may just ask questions to learn more, and you're thinking, well, I didn't expect that response. Trust me, I've had conversations with my own grandparents, and they go, really? Okay, so how do I push this button again? So it's amazing. It's amazing what you get out of the experience of just talking about something you have interest in or you like, or if it's in this case a game title that you like, or a console or PC, whatever it is, just dialogue. You're with them right now. This is a good time to bond and get closer and share a lot of the interests that you have. So without any further ado, we just want to say thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for the love on chat. If there were questions that we didn't get a chance to answer, we'll definitely get to them and respond. But thank you so much, Bubba, for coming in, and we'll definitely have you again for future shows.
Awesome. I'm happy to come back. Thanks, Ruben. Appreciate your time.
Excellent. Thank you.